This is Dan McLaughlin. He is currently 34 years old and, until recently, was a professional photographer. 5 years ago, Dan decided to put down his camera and pick up a bag of golf clubs. His goal, to become a professional golfer. His inspiration, the idea that 10,000 hours of practice can turn anyone into an expert. 5 years and over 5,000 hours of practice later, Dan is more than halfway to his goal, and has become quite a decent golfer. But whether he succeeds or not, the result of his efforts will provide a rare and valuable piece of evidence to an argument that started centuries ago. In 1896, Sir Francis Galton became the first scientist to investigate the factors leading to expert performance. His book, Hereditary Genius, contains findings that close relatives of eminent individuals in the British Isles were more likely to be eminent themselves than distant relatives of the same individual. Galton concluded that people's abilities, both cognitive and physical, are determined by inherited genetics, and that there is some maximum performance limited by one's genes that cannot be surpassed. So long as he is a novice, he perhaps flatters himself there is hardly an assignable limit to the education of his muscles, but the daily gain is soon discovered to diminish, and at last it vanishes altogether. His maximum performance becomes a rigidly determinate quantity. Galton, 1896. Views on expert performance would follow largely in Galton's footsteps for decades. In 1916, Alfred Binet attempted to measure IQ based on tests of perceptual and cognitive capacities. In his early attempts, however, Binet found that practice had significant effects on the results of his tests. Binet would go on to successfully develop the first IQ tests, but his observations sparked a wave of inquiries into how IQ relates to exceptional performance, among other things. In the mid to late 1900s, studies challenging Galton's views began to emerge. For example, in 1966, Ghiselli found the average correlation between job success and ability measures to be only 0.19. In 1982, Shutter-Dyson found IQ to be weakly correlated with exceptional performance in music. And in 1985, Baird found that ability measures only accounted for 4% of the variance in occupational success of scientists, engineers, and doctors. The environmentalist movement culminated in 1993 when Ericsson published his framework for the acquisition of expert performance, known as the Expert Performance Framework. Ericsson's framework rejects the influence of intellectual abilities at the expert level of performance and states that expert performance is attained by lengthy deliberate practice. Ericsson's framework is based on previous studies showing a lack of correlation between intellectual ability and performance, as well as his own studies investigating the effects of deliberate practice. For example, in one study, Ericsson found that the accumulated practice of pianists at the Music Academy of West Berlin accounted for and was predictive of their current performance levels. In addition, Ericsson is backed by studies showing that experts in fields such as music, chess, mathematics, sports, science, and writing all required at least 10 years of preparation starting from when they were first introduced to the field to reach their peak performance, with little exception. These 10 years roughly translates into 10,000 hours of practice time, and is the foundation for the 10,000 hour concept.